In Ikaria, Greece, 1 out of every 3 individuals lives past the age of 90. The population experiences half the rate of cardiovascular disease found in Western Europe, a quarter of the dementia cases, and the specific foods responsible for these statistics, the ones the island's oldest residents have consumed daily for generations, cannot legally claim on their labels what scientific research demonstrates they actually do. Under current FDA regulations, only pharmaceutical products that have successfully completed the formal approval process are permitted to state that they treat or prevent disease. Consequently, Greek mountain tea cannot legally say it produces the same diuretic effect as the blood pressure medications that 50 million Americans take every single month, even though the University of Athens has documented that exact biological mechanism. The herb is forbidden from saying it, while the pill is allowed. This is what banned means in this context, not hidden or suppressed, but legally silenced by a regulatory structure designed for molecules that can be owned and patented. There are 7 specific foods in the Ikarian daily diet that produce the same biochemical effects as 7 of the most frequently prescribed drug classes in the Western world. All 7 are readily available at any grocery store or online. None of them cost more than a few dollars per week, and none can state on their label what they actually do for the body. In this guide, I will walk you through each one, explaining what it does, which drug it mirrors, where to find it, how to use it, and the weekly cost. By the end, you will have a complete daily system. The first food is Greek mountain tea, scientifically known as Sideritis scardica and called Malotira on Ikaria. Ikarians brew this every morning as a replacement for coffee. Its pharmacological classification is both a diuretic and an anti-inflammatory. The drug it mirrors is the class of diuretics. Typically, the first medication a cardiologist prescribes for high blood pressure is a diuretic, a substance that signals the kidneys to excrete more sodium, thereby lowering fluid volume and reducing arterial pressure. More than 50 million Americans rely on one every month. Professor Ioana Chino at the University of Athens tested the specific herbs that Ikarians drink most frequently. The results showed strong antioxidant properties and mild natural diuretic activity. This is the same mechanism as pharmaceutical diuretics, but delivered at a dietary dose accumulated across decades. The critical difference is that pharmaceutical diuretics often deplete potassium, requiring patients to undergo regular monitoring. Mountain tea does not do this. The plant delivers the diuretic effect without disrupting the body's electrolyte balance. Furthermore, a team at Johns Hopkins publishing in the journal Neurology found that long-term diuretic use was associated with a nearly 75% lower risk of Alzheimer's compared to non-users. The Ikarians have been consuming a mild natural diuretic every morning for their entire adult lives, and their dementia rate is a quarter of the Western average. To find it, search for Greek mountain tea or Sideritis scardica online. It costs about $8 to $12 per 100-gallon bag, which provides 30 to 40 cups. Use 1 teaspoon per cup, steeped for 7 minutes in hot water. Add 1 teaspoon of raw honey after steeping, not before, because honey's active enzymes degrade above 40 degrees C. This should be your morning tea every day, starting this week. A common mistake is substituting chamomile or peppermint. While pleasant, neither is Sideritis. Buy from a Greek or Cypriot supplier, as the polyphenol concentration in plants grown at high altitudes is what matters. The second food is extra virgin olive oil, consumed at a rate of 3 tablespoons per day, and always added after cooking, never during. The drug it mirrors is NSAIDs, such as ibuprofen and naproxen, the anti-inflammatories that 65 million Americans take daily for chronic pain. Extra virgin olive oil contains a compound called oleocanthal, which is responsible for the throat-burning sensation found in high-quality oils. Gary Beauchamp and his colleagues at the Monell Chemical Senses Center identified in a 2005 Nature paper that this sensation exists because oleocanthal inhibits COX-1 and COX-2, the exact same enzymes targeted by ibuprofen. 1 liter of quality extra virgin olive oil contains approximately 200 milliliters of oleocanthal. A standard adult ibuprofen dose is 400 milligrams. Consuming 3 tablespoons daily provides a consistent, low-level anti-inflammatory dose compounded across decades with none of the gastrointestinal damage produced by long-term NSAID use. The qualification is that not all olive oil contains meaningful levels of oleocanthal. It degrades rapidly after extraction and under light exposure. Look for a harvest date on the bottle, not just a best by date, and choose dark glass. You should feel a peppery burn in the throat when taking a small spoonful. No burn means no oleocanthal. Clear bottles on warm supermarket shelves are mostly depleted of these benefits. Use 3 tablespoons per day, always added after the food is off the heat, as a finishing layer in the bowl. The polyphenols survive the finishing process, but do not survive the frying pan. The third food is dandelion greens and other bitter wild plants, which Ikarians call horta. The drug it mirrors is a second diuretic, but with a key difference from the pharmaceutical version. Dandelion leaf has documented diuretic activity. What separates it from pharmaceutical diuretics is that while the drugs deplete potassium, dandelion greens are naturally high in potassium. The plant provides the diuretic effect and simultaneously replenishes the electrolyte that the effect would otherwise deplete. No pharmaceutical diuretic performs this dual function. Dan Buettner's research team documented that the wild greens eaten by Ikarian centenarians showed antioxidant activity 10 times higher than a glass of red wine per gram. The bitterness and the bioactivity come from the same compounds. The bitter taste in dandelion and chicory is the marker of the flavonoids responsible for that activity. You can find dandelion greens at health food stores, Asian markets, and farmers markets. Chicory and radicchio are available at most well-stocked grocery produce sections. Arugula is the most accessible supermarket substitute, though at a lower concentration. To prepare them, blanch briefly in boiling salted water, drain, and dress generously with extra virgin olive oil and fresh lemon. Flavonoids are fat-soluble, so without the olive oil, a significant fraction passes through the body without being absorbed. Use olive oil and lemon only, 4 times a week alongside your main meal. A mistake is dressing them with commercial balsamic glaze or sweet vinaigrettes, as the sugar counteracts the insulin regulation these greens support. The fourth food is raw honey, taken as 1 teaspoon per day in your morning tea. The drug it mirrors is broad-spectrum antimicrobials. Commercial honey is typically pasteurized at 70 C to extend shelf life, but that temperature destroys hydrogen peroxide, peroxidase enzymes, the defensin 1, and most of the polyphenol content. What remains is essentially fructose and glucose in solution. The label still says honey, but the active compounds are gone. Raw honey retains hydrogen peroxide at concentrations documented as antibacterial in nursing research since the 1980s. It also retains defensin 1, an antimicrobial peptide. A 2017 review in the journal Nutrients found significantly higher antioxidant activity in raw honey compared to processed honey under identical conditions. 1 teaspoon in your morning tea provides a small, consistent benefit compounded across years. Brands like Beekeepers Naturals and YS Organic Bee Farms publish their raw processing standards. A 12 O's jar costing $10 to $50 lasts a month at this dose. Look for the words raw and unpasteurized on the label at health food stores or online. The fifth food is chickpeas, slow cooked and then refrigerated overnight to be eaten cold or gently reheated. The drug it mirrors is statins, the drugs prescribed to lower cardiovascular risk by reducing systemic inflammation. When chickpeas cool after cooking and are refrigerated overnight, the starch undergoes retrogradation. It becomes resistant to digestion in the small intestine and passes into the colon, where gut bacteria ferment it into butyrate. Butyrate is the primary fuel for the cells lining the colon. Adequate butyrate levels maintain the gut barrier, which determines what substances cross into the bloodstream. A compromised gut barrier is a documented driver of the chronic inflammation that predicts cardiovascular disease and cognitive decline after age 60. A Loma Linda University study tracked 7,000 people for 30 years and found that those eating legumes 4 or more times per week had a 22% lower risk of cardiovascular disease compared to those eating them less than once a week. You can cook chickpeas from dried on Sunday or use canned chickpeas that are rinsed and refrigerated overnight to develop meaningful resistant starch. Eat them cold with olive oil and lemon or reheat them very gently. Do not refry them at high heat, as resistant starch does not survive in 10-second cooking. The Ikarian dish is called revithia, chickpeas cooked in water with olive oil, garlic and lemon until the broth thickens. The sixth food is sage, specifically dried Salvia officinalis, brewed as a tea on alternating mornings. The drug it mirrors is COX-2 inhibitors such as celecoxib, the prescription anti-inflammatory used for arthritis. Sage contains rosmarinic acid and carnosic acid, both of which are documented to inhibit COX-2. Diane Kochilas, who has documented Ikarian food traditions for decades, noted that sage tea with honey was the traditional first response to sore throats, fevers, and respiratory illnesses for generations of island families. You can find it in the herb section of any supermarket for under $4. Use 1 teaspoon in hot water for 5 minutes, adding raw honey after steeping. Drink this 3 mornings a week, alternating with your mountain tea. For example, mountain tea on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and sage on Tuesday and Thursday. The seventh food is rosemary, used consistently as a culinary herb in bean dishes, roasted vegetables, and soups. The drug it mirrors is a second COX-2 inhibitor at a consistent dietary dose. Rosemary contains rosmarinic acid and carnosol, both documented to inhibit COX-2, the same enzyme targeted by celecoxib. While the evidence is primarily from in vitro and animal models, it can be accurately said that consistent culinary rosemary provides daily COX-2 inhibition across decades. The mechanism is the long-term accumulation. A sprig goes into the chickpea pot every Sunday, costing under $3 at any supermarket. Now, a critical transition warning. The mistake that cancels everything is the instinct to simply add these foods to an existing Western diet. The Ikarian system is substitutive, not additive. The olive oil produces its anti-inflammatory effect because it replaces seed oils and butter. The chickpeas lower the inflammatory baseline because they replace animal protein at several meals each week. If you add without removing, you have only added cost and calories, not the health mechanism. The existing structure of your diet needs to step back. This is the step most people are unwilling to take, yet it determines whether these 7 foods produce the results shown in the data. A full week looks like this. Every morning, 1 cup of Greek mountain tea or sage tea, alternated with raw honey added after steeping. Midday, 4 days a week, eat ravithia, chickpeas, or lentil soup with rosemary and olive oil stirred in after cooking, alongside bitter greens dressed with olive oil and lemon. Use 3 tablespoons of quality olive oil in this meal, added cold. Evenings should be light, such as vegetable broth, sheep's milk feta, with tomato and olives, or seasonal fruit. Sunday prep involves cooking 1 pot of chickpeas to cover 4 midday meals. The total weekly cost for these core items is under $25. In 7 days, your digestion will shift. In 30 days, morning joint stiffness begins to ease as oleocanthal accumulates. In 90 days, the system is no longer a protocol, but an automatic habit. Start today by finding Greek mountain tea and brewing it tomorrow morning. If you are on prescribed medication, consult your doctor before making significant dietary changes. These foods complement healthy living. They do not replace medical care. If this story of the 7 Ikarian mechanisms has changed the way you look at the simple ingredients in your pantry, please subscribe and like this video. We are dedicated to uncovering the history and science that often remains buried. Let's plant the seeds for a healthier future together. Our next exploration into the world's hidden longevity secrets will be opening soon.